Hi, this is Spiderweb Legs 222. I'm gonna tie a Clouser minnow today, the way that I've come to tie them. I really like Clouser minnows. I think that it's the number one fly that I use. If I could only pick one fly, it would be that fly. I'm in Southern California, so I mainly fish the beach, estuaries, and the bays for fish like spotted bay bass, surf perch, halibut, croakers. So I really like how simple they are, how many different ways you can tie them. And I also like to come up with different ways to make them more durable for the environment that I fish them in. So I'm fishing them in around sand a lot, and sand really chews up your fly. You're constantly dragging it along the bottom when you're fishing the beach. Things like lead eyes and exposed thread wraps get sanded away like sandpaper. So I have a couple, pretty much just one trick that I like to use. I like to use the back of hook packaging, this plastic here, as a protective guard on the bottom of the fly, and the thread wraps on the lower portion of the fly. I will also use super glue and UV resin as well, but I don't like to rely on those chemicals and glues to protect the fly. I like having a legit wrap around the weak points. Pretty much the number one place that my flies fail are on the bottom, the body, those thread wraps, and the thread wraps that are underneath the eye. So the thread wraps below, what's dragging along the sand. I've been using brass eyes. They don't seem to get deformed as much as lead does. And so let me go over the list of materials. So white bucktail. Gonna do Gamakatsu SL11 3H. Size 2, size 4. I don't go bigger than 2. I really like tying them in a 4 and a 6. And when I go that small, I actually like to tie them with EP fiber. That'll be my next video. I like to use lateral scale. I don't use it as a flash material. I use it as a body wrap, and just to give the illusion of the guts and the bones of the bait fish. Most of the time I'm trying to imitate a smelt or just a small generic bait fish. Like translucency is important to me as well. So I am going to use flash roe. A lot of times I use a silver over the back, but I was on a trip and my wife saw this flash herring back, and anytime she sees a color she likes, I always think it's probably a good luck charm. So I'm gonna put this over the back of it. It'll be the little color, kind of maybe just a hint of a blue over white, just by using this flash. It's kind of got green, blue, purple in it. I like to have my nice scissors and some normal scissors. I'm gonna use this to cut the plastic. And lead, or the brass eyes. So I like using these ones here. They have eyes on them. I love having realistic eyes on the Clousers. They're not important at all. I think having these eyes on it is to me, I don't think it's that important for the fish committing, because a lot of times I'm fishing in murky, dark environments, like in eelgrass beds that are 10 feet down in bay water, which is, you know, brown and dark green. I don't think the fish can see anything down there. I think it's mostly they feel the fly coming by. But I just love putting the eyes on them because as a fly tyer, the art of it and the way that the overall fly looks at the end is just as important to me as how well it fishes. And I love getting a good profile and making sure that the fly is balanced correctly and is sparse so that it gives off a translucent effect. I need to go get one more piece of material. Be right back. All right, I'm back. A red alcohol marker. I'm gonna use that to add a gill spot or a blood spot. I think that I really like adding it. I don't know how effective it is, but having the illusion that the bait fish is bleeding in situations where something like eyes would matter would probably also benefit from having the image that the fish is damaged, especially in the nose, or in the gills. Maybe a hot spot vibes too, but I don't know how important that is. Cool. Let me get this. All right, start with the hook. This is my favorite hook for the salt. I like that it's a heavy wire hook. I don't know, I think it's the best hook. I don't need to show you how to tie a clouser because it's one of the most popular fly patterns. So I will save you that trouble on that. Everybody knows how to tie a clouser. I didn't go over this. Monofilament thread. I don't know what size it is. There's only one at my local fly shop, which is his and hers, and I love tying with it. It's very crucial to the way that I like to tie clousers. I like letting the thread, what's below the thread wraps, show through. Okay. All right, so here's somewhere where I like to start a little bit different than the typical clouser. So I'm gonna take lateral scale here, and I'm gonna use it to actually cover the shank of the hook. And I'm going to cover the thread wraps that is holding the eye on. So I'm going to take one strand of this lateral scale, so this is going to pretty much imitate the reflective guts inside of like a translucent minnow, bait fish. They all have it. They all are so clear when they're in the water. I wrap it around the eyes. Gives a lot of good color. Just kind of peeks through once you tie on the bucktail. At this point, I like to put a little bit of Zappa Gap over those, coat it. And I'm gonna let that dry before I put on the bucktail. I'm terrible at explaining this, but I read in a book, fishing book, that when you start fishing, you have very little gear, very few flies, very little experience, and then so you start to try to take in everything you can. All sorts of gear, flies, techniques, tactics, and then all of a sudden you have too much going on. You have too many lures, too many techniques, too many species of fish you're going after. And then as you slowly refine your fishing and figure out what you like and how you like to fish, you go full circle back to only having a few rods and a few tactics with a few lures or flies. And I feel that way with Clouser minnows because I've loved trying out different patterns. I'm constantly finding books with awesome patterns of East Coast crabs and shrimps for bonefish, and however, all I really want to fish in the surf is a Clouser minnow, and I like the simplicity of taking a very simple pattern and constantly working on it and tweaking it and seeing how much you can do with a little pattern like a Clouser minnow. Anytime you're working with bucktail, people always say that you gotta have good bucktail, and so I didn't want to believe that at first, and I don't have a lot of money, so I would just use whatever one bucktail, white bucktail I had as long as possible. But as I've started collecting them, definitely prefer different types of bucktail for my Clousers. I can't really explain it to you. You're gonna have to just buy up different white bucktail. But I really like the bucktail for my Clousers from this section here and this section here, as you can see by this one. So sparseness is the name of the game. It's what my fly tying mentor, if you will want to call her that, Grace from His and Hers, is always talking about sparseness. It's the most important part of a Clouser. The fish are going to react better to it with less material on it. Same way that a beat up fly usually fishes better after the fish have ripped out or cut off a lot of the hairs from chewing on it. I don't like to, when I'm taking small clumps, if I have a really long piece, one or two, I will pull it out and restack it. However, I personally don't like to pick out a lot of the fibers. I don't even, take out a lot of the underfiber. I want to have different lengths of my bucktail. I want to have these shorter ones here. I just like how it's like a teardrop shape, especially once the fly is finished. I don't like a blunt cut Clouser where the top, the wing and the body are perfect. I want to have messy, different length material. And I think that when you're going sparser, that's okay. It doesn't look bad. Whereas if you're going with a big bushy Clouser and you have all these different lengths, it might not be as effective. It might be just too much bulk. It might slow the sink rate and everything. I'm not worried about that because of the less amount of bucktail. When I'm doing this part, I hold the material up. I'm trying to balance the bucktail so that you still get a lot of that flash on the body. I want it to show almost like a lateral line. Let me zoom it in for you. See that? Okay, at this step, I am going to again put glue over these bucktail and the thread wraps that I just added. Especially right here. Next is going to be, okay, I forgot to record that segment. Okay, cut some plastic off the back of the hook packaging, and you're gonna take a red marker, lay this on it so it starts at the back of the thread wraps. Kind of get eyeball where you want that red gill spot. I like to have it kind of on the front side of the gills, like it's going forward, like that. As you can see, the alcohol marker isn't drying. It takes a while to dry, so it's kind of like this wet, bloody, blotchy spot. So now I'm going to, and when I put this on, I want that the wet paint, the wet marker side down so that it locks it in and it starts to bleed into the bucktail. I'm gonna take a little bit of glue because I want it to adhere, especially on top. And then I'm just going to lay it right on top. And since the thread I'm using is clear mono, I can just tie right over it. So I'm gonna lay it on here, pinch it so that it's blankets around the fly. You kind of have to figure out how to do this. The material does want to kink a bit. Push it down and just always make sure that the material is wrapping around the hook shank. It'll want to bend and do some weird things, and then here, cut this off. I try to save my fancy scissors when I'm doing this and use cheap scissors or older scissors. And And since there's glue under there, I can kind of press it in and make sure that it's all tight to the fly. I don't want sand getting in there and water getting in there. And then I'm just gonna go over these, lock all that plastic down underneath more thread wraps. And then I'm going to use glue on top of all that. And that's gonna be kind of like, I don't like putting UV resin over this. I just like doing like a head cement, like the hard as whole, the little brown container. I'm just out right now, but I'll usually do some layers of that over this. But here's what it looks like at the moment. So a lot of color. This is just a basic white, all white Clouser. But at this point you have a lot of depth of color with the eyes, with the, what's it called? The lateral scale, with the red blotchy blood stain on in the gills. And then the white bucktail on the bottom, you know, it allows the flash of the body to come through just enough without being just a, you know, it's a really good, like a realistic flash. I don't like realistic flies, but I like having fun making simple impressionistic flies have little bits of realism in there, kind of blending the two together. So I'm gonna let that dry a little bit. I'm gonna get some more bucktail for the wing. I'm gonna use pretty much the same amount, and I want it to be the same style. I want it to be kind of, I really like having I don't like to pick out all the bucktail, so I just cut this straight off. I haven't preened any of the under hair out or anything. That is, you know, super scraggly, ugly. And that's how I like it. I'm gonna take this one long piece and just reinstall it right into it. And now I got kind of more taper like that. When I put it on this fly, I want it to be just a little bit shorter than the bottom. Trim it. I really love it when a bucktail is you're getting close to the natural color, because you start getting these small brown natural fibers mixed into the white of that you're trying to grab the white pieces, and you get these slightly brown pieces in, and I really like that. And I don't know if this helps, but I pull the fibers back, and then once I'm past the hook, I twist them in my fingers like that, just to get the material, kind of like I'm training the material. And put just one piece, one strand. This is a brand new pack, even though brand new to me, but it looks like it was on my shelf for a long time. Like the plastic is kind of yellow. So I'm gonna take one piece out. Crystal flash, they tighten the zip tie too tight, and I don't like it when it causes the crystal flash to wrinkle. So I'm just going to put 2 strands over it, and I'm going to cut this in half so I can use one for this fly and the other side for the next fly, because that's all I need. The beautiful part of the mono thread is you're going to be able to see this all the way up to the eye of the hook. Perfect. Just like that, and trim it off. Just past it. Lip finish it and zap a gap. And then I will do some UV resin, and then I like to leave them, after I cure it with the UV torch, I like to leave them in the sun for, oh, that lip finish didn't work. I like to leave the flies in the sun for pretty much like an hour or so. Besides the UV resin, I'll show you when I do that. I didn't want to bring it outside. I'm gonna do that inside so that my UV resin doesn't kick while it's in the bottle. You can just see all the colors, and there's just so much, like, there's a liveliness to such a simple, cartoonish style fish. You know, simplest pattern, very impressionistic to fish. I think that this, for the most part, is going to imitate anything. It's more of a size at that point, what size they want, and they're keying in on. I like the heavy wire hook. I think that a lot of my fishing is deep, so that helps also bring the fly down. There's a lot of flash just poking out of, you know, you can see the flash poking out underneath even the thread wraps and the red blood spot there. Especially from this angle, which I really like, you can see just the flash kind of blending with the brass of the eye. Let me put some UV resin on it and it'll be good to go. Where is my... Since I have put a lot of material, this head is already pretty big. I don't want to put a thick UV resin, so I'm going to do a thin. And all I really want to do, I know this thing's strong because the super glue pretty much welds the mono line into just this plastic mush around like a plastic shell around the thread wraps. The super glue, the Zappy Gap embeds into the bucktail and through it and all that. I just want to give it just a nice glossy head. That's really the only reason. I don't think this fly needs UV resin. I try to limit as much UV resin in my tying as possible. So I'm just going to put a little bit on here. I usually do this with my vise, but that's outside. And just enough. Also like to cover a little bit of the plastic on the back and just a little bit down the back right there. I don't like it when the UV resin pools next to the eyes, so I kind of take something and I go around those. Great. All right, let's put it outside. Just let the sun cure it. Usually, maybe I'll do 5 or 6 at a time. Let the sun cure them. All right, I just finished up tying another one. Here's the first one I tied with you guys. With UV on it, all dried up. One thing I would like to mention about the UV that I guess I really do like is it causes the colors below the mono to pop. It kind of is like a clear coat and really brings the colors out. So here's this one, same tie, just different color eyes. You get the idea. Let's see if I can do macro. Cool. So yeah, I'm gonna tie up, and I like tying these in all white because there's a couple reasons I like to tie these in all white, and that is because I can color them if I want to. I'm gonna bring these with me. I'm going on a small fishing trip tomorrow, overnighter, and if I am not, my most confident color is just white over white. But if I want blue, let's say the water's really blue, or the sky's really blue, or something makes me want to do any one of these colors, you know, we got more of a, I would say, sardine vibes, or baby surf perch vibes with the yellow, green, like what, maybe bait, like a small mackerel, or smelt is kind of green. If I want to match the color of the water, it's green water, blue water, I can do that and just color them. And in coloring just, you know, the top of it, or a light swipe across the top of it, you end up getting this nice fade of color instead of a really abrupt blue over white. The last thing I'd like to mention, when I finish tying the flies, I love to, like I was showing earlier, I love to twist all the material. especially because I put the flash on top. Here you can see why I love the mono thread, because you can see that flash going all the way to the front of the fly. Fish don't care, but I love it. What I really like about twisting the material after, besides just looking at them, because I love looking at the teardrop baitfish profile, is it allows me to blend in that crystal flash into the material, so it becomes a lateral line inside the translucency of the bucktail. That crystal flash is no longer sitting on top of the bucktail. I have it pretty much like blended inside of those strands. This one here, straight out of the vise. The crystal flash, oh, let me trim it. I'm gonna take this fly and just twist it like this and work the way out to the end. And that just helps entwine that crystal flash inside the bucktail fibers. As I'm fishing them too, you know, every few casts, I'll make sure that nothing's been fouled. I don't have eelgrass on the hook, and I will also kind of twist them just to make sure, you know. There we go. That one just needs UV resin, and I need to tie up a few more of those. If you want to buy any of these, comment below, and I can link that up. But also, if you tie any of these, I hope you are inspired to push the limits and push the simplicity of Clouser Minnow. Thanks for watching. Bye.